Good afternoon. This is a regular committee meeting on sustainability. I'm Councilwoman Cindy Fowler, Chair of the committee, and I'm joined today by Vice Chair Glenn Stuckel, as well as members of the committee, Councilman Bill Hollander, Councilman James Peden. We're waiting to see with Councilman Tom Owen. I'm sure he'll be here shortly. We have 3 items on the agenda today, and I'd like to take them out of order a little bit so that whoever is here to speak on the resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of $5,434 from Okolona Fence Company for construction at the Animal House Adoption Center to be administered by the Metro Animal Services.
Move
that
approval.
is Resolution R-133-15. Moved and seconded. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Yes, thank you. If you could identify yourself.
Yes. I'm Stephanie Moore, the Assistant Director, and I just wanted to let you know that this fencing that is being donated will add some play yards to the Animal House location so that we're able to get more animals outside at one time. So we thank you very much for accepting this resolution.
Right, thank you. Is there any questions, anyone? We have been joined by Councilman Tom Owens. Okay, and then moving on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, resolution. Vote.
Yes, we need to have a vote on that. So if you could open it's a resolution, so it's a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the ayes have it. And that will go to the consent calendar. The next item up for discussion is the spring assessments and initiatives for Brightside, and I believe we have someone here from Brightside to speak to us on that. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
And this is Ms. Gina O'Brien with Brightside.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for inviting me to come today. I appreciate it. And I'm going to go through some current initiatives and where we are at with some of One Bright City and some other of our initiatives within Brightside. But I first wanted to thank Metro Council for support. We had a beautiful dedication to late Jim King this morning at Bardstown Road, I-264 Brightside. So I was more than honored with all the support that we received today and for a very worthy morning, and I just wanted to thank everybody for making that a really special morning for us, so thank you.
It was very special.
Thank you. So, wanted to go through One Bright City and our Brightside initiatives. We have 3 core initiatives that I wanted to just update on. First is our cleanliness, and as I've reported on in the past, we have our cleanliness assessment where we go into the community with volunteers and we score. We have 260 locations, and we're looking at the cleanliness aspect of these locations. And this assessment really gives us strong data to work with our community groups and volunteer groups to be able to really strategically place where we do our cleanups and where extra effort needs to happen in our community. Our assessment plan is March, June, and then this coming September. So last time I was here was end of March. I remember it very clearly. And we did not have our data in yet with some of the inclement weather, so it did push back. So I do have data on both March and June results, so that's what I'm going to go over. So we had complete teams with all 26 Metro Council districts. So at this point, we have had that complete team complement of 5 to 6 volunteers plus the Brightside champion for all of our assessments except for the first one. So at this point, that has become the standard, and we are very proud of that we've gotten to this level. We do have a new map. I had addressed this last time I was here, and it had not been updated, but in the past couple months it has. And it's on brightsideinc.org on our homepage. And it's a nice interactive map that shows, I have a screenshot of the map as we go further, but that is an addition, and it's a nice user-friendly way for the community to look at the scores by a color code, and there's a key on the map that shows as a visual, where the ones are and where the twos are and threes and fours. It looks much better and translates much nicer onto a mobile device, and it's just a lot more user-friendly. And it really helps the message of community education as well, as you can engage people easier to look at the results. So this is the breakdown, the data breakdown from March results. So the green, just a refresher, and 1 is the cleanest, and 4 is the most littered. So this breaks it down on the left, going downwards, 1 through 26, Metro Council District, and then 1 through 10 on the horizontal plane is the 10 sites within. So green is the score of a 1, yellow is the score of a 2, orange is of a 3, and red is of a 4. So the data breakdown is 99 sites scored between a 1.0 to 1.99, 131 sites scored between 2 to a 2.99, 30 sites scored between a 3 and 3.99, and then 0 scored at a 4. So we had a median score of a 2 and an overall city score of a 2.05. So as we go into June, it looks the same. And our numbers were pretty similar from March to June. We had 100 at the 1 score, 132 at the 2 score, 28 sites at 3, and 0 at 4. So we had a median score in June of a 2.0, overall city score of a 2.09. So that was negative change of 0.04. So we had a little bit more litter from March to June, but ultimately it was pretty steady. So we will be repeating this assessment in September, so I will get to that in a second. This is a picture of the One Bright City interactive map. So as you can see, the green circles are those ones that we just looked at, the yellows are the 2s, and then the 3s are the orange. And we don't have any reds. So that's what that map does look like. So it's a much easier way of looking at this information than having it on a logic map. And so what we also are doing with the One Bright City interactive map is we have the history of the cleanliness results. So you can go and look at one specific location and see in the past year what the numbers have been. Any data will be stored within that location point. We also have a tier. We have 3 different layers. So we also have our green living certification on this map as well. So we have an icon that shows when neighborhoods are green living certified and the color that corresponds with that. And then we also have the data points for our trees. So any trees that have been planting, we have on this map as well. So it can be a nice visual for people to look to see where the trees are going up in the community. So there's a couple different layers on the map. So talking about community solutions, I wanted to, I'm not going to go through and read every one of these details, but we have seen a great amount of Brightside Champion-led efforts. So arming the 26 leaders in the community has been a very powerful message, and we've got some community leadership from these Brightside Champion nominations. We're working much more closely with these champions for different issues and areas that they're seeing that are continually littered, asking for our advice, asking for ways that we can help with a solution, and there's been a lot of examples. Just to see that level of leadership within the community is really what this is all about, is to come up with some community-based solutions and efforts to kind of get to that cleaner solution. We've also been able to, community level involvement, we've really been able to, as I reported in March on this as well, because we've really started seeing, I think, better results come March, is when we're leading our community-wide cleanups or any neighborhood cleanup that we run anytime throughout the year. But community members as well as Brightside is using the map to say where are some areas that need some extra attention. And that's a really important point, and we communicate that to our teams as well, not to sugarcoat the numbers, because this is for us to put resources to, whether it's community, whether Public Works will talk to us and ask for some of the data so they know where to put some resources. And so we're all using this information together so we can be as collective and strategic with our efforts as possible. We had, so we also have seen the number of neighborhood cleanups increase a great amount as well. So the difference of our neighborhood cleanups and our spring and fall community-wide cleanup is the neighborhood cleanups take place any time of the year. So at any point, we support a cleanup with bags and gloves and, the trash pickers and any type of supplies that we do have. Where the spring and fall community-wide cleanup are definitely armied around one day and one weekend of the year. So our neighborhood cleanup program has jumped, and we are getting calls, so many more, and a lot of it led through champions, but also a lot of it just by community members as well.
And how does that work as far as, I know they can call your office to get the bags and supplies,
Yes.
But what about pickup?
We coordinate pickup as well.
I
So
see.
we work with solid waste routinely, and we send them the information of this is who's out in the community cleaning up, and the only request that we make of the groups is to make sure that the trash is at the right of way.
Sure.
So, since they're picking it up. And
Right.
as long as all that communication's clear, solid waste is a great partner with it, and they
Great.
pick up the trash timely.
Thank you.
And we do have Lori Roberts on our staff as our volunteer coordinator, and we work out of a satellite office on Tuesdays and Fridays where we can coordinate supplies for any group of any size, and we do that all the time. Okay, so I just wanted to note on our spring community-wide cleanup, since the last time I was here was March, so the spring cleanup was in April. We hosted 13,000 volunteers for the spring community-wide cleanup. It's amazing growth, amazing efforts. The amount of trash that was picked up was 25 tons of litter and debris from green spaces, neighborhoods, and roadways. That is equivalent to what 32 Americans produce in 1 year. We are very proud of this effort, and I could not, Metro Council is an amazing partner in this effort as well. All the districts support it, and they're pushing it out within their newsletters and their neighborhood meetings. And, this is truly an effort where we're all working together to get our community cleaned up for spring and fall. So we are so grateful for the support with that, and our numbers are increasing every year because of that. So we've had some great results and solutions from the community-wide cleanup. So our next assessment date is September 5th. We do have our teams in place. However, if there's ever a volunteer, if anybody wants to be a part of a team, we always accept new volunteers. So to reach out to our office, we'd love to pair you up with your cleanliness assessment team. We are going to be testing a new tool that is going to be an option for the champions and the assessment teams. And it's an app where they can be in the field and take pictures and put scores within their phones, and it'll all sync up to our One Bright City map. So it'll be a nice, more sustainable way so you don't have the paper and the clipboards, and it'll be also much more instant. So it takes us a couple weeks to get the data back, which is okay, but when we do these assessments, it's that immediate gratification that's really important, and we're missing that. So we really want to be able to send our champions and our teams out in the field and then have the results uploaded on the map within the day. Would be the goal, since they can go out there and do it right as they're doing it. So we're really proud of that, and we are testing this app with our District 9 team in September. And then we also planned our September assessment to happen the weekend that it was, or for the Labor Day weekend, so we can use the data to support the fall community-wide cleanup. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough time to gather the data and enough time to utilize the. So that'll support the community-wide cleanup this fall, which will take place on October 24th.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, so any questions on the cleanliness assessment and our cleanups before I move on, or should we do questions at the end?
Yes, Councilman Owen?
Just trying to read the map, I expected,
Back to that?
in looking at the map, I expected for the 8th district, for instance, and I'm not just trying to focus on my district, but I expected to see at least one yellow balloon and the rest green balloons. But when I look at generally the configuration of my district, I only see about 6 or 7 balloons. Is that the way it ought to be, or is that? I don't want us to get stuck on the 8th district, but I was just trying to make sense of what I was seeing.
Sure.
There are 10
There should
sites.
be 10,
Yeah.
and Lori helped with inputting the data, so we'll ask.
Right.
So I'm Lori Roberts. I'm the event and volunteer coordinator for Brightside. So this is actually a pulled-in view of the map. As you get closer into your district, you'll see all of the bubbles. They don't all show up
I see.
individually
So
on this map. Some of them are kind of overlapping. But each one of these, when you go onto the map on Brightside's homepage, where it's at right now, you can click on each one of those circles, and it will give you the street corridor that is assessed, the score, what type of litter it was, if any pictures were given or taken by the teams, those are uploaded there. So you can see the historical data as well as the type.
So this is just a simpler extrapolation
yes.
for this, I understand.
Yeah, you can drill down much farther and much more detail on the actual live map.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to add that Councilman Blackwell and Councilman Johnson have joined us. Go ahead.
Okay. Any other questions before I continue? Okay. So wanted to touch base on our Green Living Neighborhood Certification Program. So we launched this in December of 2014. And just as a quick refresher, it's a tiered neighborhood certification program where the neighborhoods are receiving recognition for their sustainable living practices. And really what we're looking at doing is educating the community with simple steps and ideas that individuals can take to incorporate more sustainable living choices in their everyday life. So that's the main goal of the program. So we've had a successful launch, and at this point we have 11 neighborhoods registered at this point. Those 11 green captains represent 400 households. So that is a pretty good reach from December to now. Neighborhood areas represented at this point: Highlands and Douglas, Shawnee Park, Americana neighborhood, Germantown, Middletown. We do have one neighborhood that's completed their steps for certification, and they've received the green certification level, and then others in their final steps. So that is where we are currently sitting with that program. We do really want to see that program grow. So my ask at this time would be, any neighborhood meeting or any opportunity to communicate with any groups or schools or businesses or any way to educate about the program and how to get involved with it would be important. It's really just getting the word out there and letting, we have a lot of tools and information for these green captains available for them to execute their role. And the main roles and responsibilities are the neighborhood household participation and, recruitment. So remember, we can look at a street, it doesn't have to be an entire neighborhood, whatever that comfortable kind of area would be for that green captain. And then they would do the initial registration form with Brightside, with the downloadable registration form on our website. And then they would go through the checklist and complete the neighborhood certification form. So on that checklist explains all the point system, and I've presented on that in the past, so I didn't want to repeat myself there. But just to reiterate what the roles and responsibilities are. So again, we're looking for any opportunity to communicate this program and any of our other programs. We do have a speaker request form on our website. It is under how to get involved. So if anybody would like for us to come to any meeting or any organizing group, we'd be happy to do so. So lastly is the tree tracker, and I have a pretty simple update on this because we're not in our core planting season, so we will have a much greater in detail update the next time I come. But as of June 2015, we have tracked nearly 19,000 trees that have been planted in our community by Brightside, other community partners, businesses, organizations, neighborhood groups, and individuals. Because remember, the tree tracker, we were asking for individuals to say, I put one tree in my yard, or I just was with this business and we did 100 trees. So we're looking for every submittal so we can gather all that information. So we will be continuing our efforts and going into the fall planting season, really looking to promote this. And we are going to be working with a community-wide planting day again as we launched last year, which will be November 7th. So I believe we're scheduled to come back in October So I'll go through much more detail about how to get involved with the community planting day, and as that would be planting season. But if anybody wants more information on trees and how to either volunteer or get their neighborhood into a planting, for them to reach out to us. And at this time, that is it.
All right, thank you. I planted 8 trees.
You did?
This in the spring in June, so.
Well, if you wouldn't mind sending me the information so I can track it.
I will do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good for
Are
you.
there any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Anyone? No? Councilman Stuckel?
Gina, do you all have a program for the public schools that you're working with?
We actually, we do not, and that is something, we have an education committee on our board, and it's newly formed. Dr. Cynthia Crabtree, President of Sacred Heart Schools, is chairing that, and we've just gotten her engaged in our board, and we're actually looking to do that, and that's a big nut to crack right now. So if you have any guidance or advice on how to do that, but we are crafting. We do have a program and a presentation with sustainability education currently, and anytime we're able to get into a school, we do. So we actively reach out to schools, and it's really focused through K through 3. So we do have that. We do have a program, but we are not working with JCPS for all the JCPS schools at this time.
I'm just thinking that the Blue Apple players, they do these plays that have particular themes to them. It might be interesting to talk to them and see if they would do one that has the themes about do not litter.
Yeah, and we do, so we have a couple different education programs. One of which is eco-drama, and that's focused to 3rd grade, and we work with Stage 1, and it's a similar concept where it's that learning through, dramatic, they're acting out and hands-on learning, and that sustainable, learning about sustainability choices, and not littering and recycling and things of that nature. Right. We have a program called the Lorax Project, which is focused for like 2- and 3-year-olds, and that's with reading the Lorax and going through and talking about the benefits of trees, and they have a nice little color sheet where they can color in. So we've got different programs, but we don't have that wide stretch of a program within JCPS. But I will definitely reach out to them. That's a great suggestion, and see if we can partner in any way. It's very valuable to get into the classroom.
Do you earmark any of the areas that over, say, how long has this program been in? Over a year now, right?
For the cleanliness assessment?
Yeah. Right.
We started it last April, so a year, yes.
It's over a year old, huh?
Yes.
Do you have any of the areas where you have not seen improvement?
We have, no, I mean, anything that we have seen some areas at a state of 3. And we are working with the champions. What we're going to do is this fall or winter is work with the champions on those 3s and try to figure out how we can get those to 2s and 1s. We have seen some areas that have just kind of stayed there. We have seen some areas that have improved as well. So it's been a little bit of both. And in all honesty, it's us working with those champions and figuring out, and looking through the detailed notes and saying, where is that litter coming from? So we do ask the champions to say, what is the source? And if it's a local business, maybe we can call them. And we have had some results directly of different businesses and reaching out to them and working with them. And a lot of it's been led through the champions, which has been wonderful.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. It's always good to see your smiling face.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back.
Thank you.
And thank you for your support.
Great. Okay, the next thing we have coming up is a resolution R-124-15, a resolution supporting the future of solar energy in Metro Louisville. And those sponsors are Councilman Rick Blackwell and Councilman Bill Hollander. And we have several people here that are speakers that can address some of the issues for the committee today. I think Maria Koetter is here. Councilman Blackwell, do you have anything that you would like to say, or?
Move approval.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on task, Mr. Peden. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Properly moved and seconded. We move on, and we have Maria Koetter here from the Metro Office of Sustainability. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Maria Koetter, Director of Sustainability for the city. And I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what we're currently working on that's in our city sustainability plan, so you have that foundation to consider. So Sustain Louisville's overarching goal is to protect the environment as well as promote the health, wellness, and prosperity of our citizens. So this resolution does support efforts in all those areas. So specifically, goal number 1 is to reduce energy consumption per capita 25% by 2025. So again, solar fits in very nicely right there. Also wanted to let you all know we currently have solar on 5 city-owned buildings, which is the Metro Development Center, the Newburgh Library, the Ashland Firehouse, Mary T. Maher just recently got solar as well as our corrections facility. So we are sort of looking at that and doing that internally to the extent possible. Then the other aspect is we certainly want to foster an environment where folks feel like they can use solar or renewable energy projects. And we want to do that and promote public-private partnerships as well as potential grant opportunities and maybe finding some funding incentives over time. But we've already got that in our sustainability plan, and it's supportive of the resolution, and work's underway in some of our buildings too. So that's it.
Anyone have any questions? Ms. Koetter? Yes, Councilman Blackwell.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
So on the 5 buildings that you have, so are those are solar, do you know how many panels and how big?
I could get you those details. I don't have that off the top of my head, but we do also have solar thermal, which means it's passive and that heats the water. So Corrections is using that for their washing machines and laundry services at that building.
And then, so on the other side, so that one you're using it right there, so it's
right.
being used in the building. On the others, is it actually being used by the building, or is it just going back into the grid?
Oh yeah, it's running things in the building. The solar on the 444 actually runs the equipment that runs the solar thermal.
Oh, okay.
So that's an interesting application there. And we also have the air monitoring station out at Cannons Lane is operated about 30% from the solar panels at that facility.
Just wanted to comment, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
And I'm a little bit on insecure ground, but I believe 2 or 3 years ago, this is not a metro agency but I think TARC on their garage facility, I thought at 10th and maybe even at 28th. I'm not sure, but I know I thought were doing a solar installation there as well.
Right. Yeah. They've done a lot of work at the maintenance facility. It's LEED certified, so very sustainable building.
Councilman Peden, thank you.
Of all the buildings that you just mentioned, let's go to the Ashland Firehouse real quick. It's small surface area. I assume these things are on the roof.
Right.
So we know that everybody kind of can picture a firehouse in their head. Is it self-sustaining, or does it pull power from the grid? Can it power itself all day, all night, between batteries and the recharging and so on, or is it?
Well, it supplements energy use.
Well, I guess what I'm looking
right.
at, then I guess my question would be: is what's the savings? Assuming that again, most of the lights are out, the bay is probably only lit when they need it. TVs, basic kitchen. It's of all those buildings you named, it's the closest thing to a residential house.
That's right.
So that's why I'm trying to get, if you put these on your roof, and as they have put them on their roof, and also making an assumption that we spend money a little more frivolously than your average homeowner, is it going to pay for itself eventually?
Oh,
yeah. And making that how long?
I can't tell you the detail on that in the specific case, but I can let you know. I can research the percentage of energy for the building as well as the return on that investment.
Okay, because I mean, again, I've made comments before. I've moved from a house that had trees everywhere to a house that's middle of the day, I'm cooking in my own.
Significant, yeah.
I could, I'm sitting there going, I might as well take advantage of the fact I have no trees. And just, I'm curious as to 10 years, 20 years, 50 years.
Residential, you're generally in the 12-ish years. It just depends on cost. Pricing has come down quite a bit.
Right,
but
and I know that. That's why I'm curious at this
commercial.
point.
Some of these other experts may have more information.
And maybe
on
that's
that
what I'm
too.
saying.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smart people back there that look like they may want to talk.
Okay.
Councilman Blackwell, I have you in the queue.
Yeah,
Was that from before, or do you have something else?
Something else, yeah.
Okay.
I just had, so those are the 5 buildings, and so is there a plan for expansion, and how do we do that? I mean, how do we look at where those things are happening? I know, is it Indianapolis maybe, where they talked about how they have, at the zoo?
That's Cincinnati.
Cincinnati,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah. And another piers, I saw another example where they pired they had kind of a bridge, much like our walking bridge with lights, and it's powered by solar and so on. So what are our next steps? Those are 5 great examples. What are 6 through 10?
I'm hoping with the new libraries that there'll be some solar included there, which is that one Newburgh Library is new, so hopefully there'll be some in that. The Mary T and corrections were recently installed as part of our energy savings performance contract, so that helped with the financing, all that as well. But in terms of other projects, I think that's what I know at this time.
Okay.
Councilman Johnson?
It's my understanding with a lot of study on this that the solar that comes into your house produces electricity, and then it goes back into the electrical system, and you actually get refunded part of the money that you'd make that you'd have to pay, and it would reduce your electric bill.
Yes, I think that's how it works for the most part.
And I want to be added as a sponsor.
Great. Thank you. Councilman Hollander?
Thank you for coming. I think the Mary T, which is in my district and I've actually looked at, I think it heats the water actually in the pool all but the coldest months of the year, and it was really part of the Johnson control.
Massive improvement over there. Lots of
They're
work.
not really panels. It's more tubes. So you look at the building, you don't really see the panels, but there are tubes that do that, and they're very happy with it. Let me ask you a question about street lights, which I know are supplied to the city by LG&E. But as we drive around, including, in many places in Indiana, we see street lights and signals that are supported by solar. How can we have more of that kind of development in Louisville? I mean, what do we need to do, and what's the impediment to doing that? And you can maybe explain the LG&E situation a little bit.
Yeah, that's a very broad question. We have city streetlights. Many of them are owned by LG&E, and we just lease those lights, so we don't necessarily maintain or purchase those actual fixtures. So there's that situation, and certainly the cost is more, so we always have to think about that. But I will tell you, over at our 7th and Industry location, which is one of our nicest, largest green roofs, city-owned building, there are also 6 solar parking lot lights. They're like street lights that illuminate the parking lot, and those are pretty cool. So we have a few.
Yes, Councilman Owen?
Mr. Peden may want to elaborate, but both of us remember when Metro Public Works was experimenting with some solar street lights. I know there was one here at 6th and Market, as I recall, and this was 7 years ago, 7 years ago. Feels like 7, 8 years ago. But I'm not sure whether whether they determined that there wasn't enough energy generated or what. But all I know is that there was, as I recall, there was an effort to do some experimentation in the community by Metro Public Works to do that.
I'd like to add too that I'm sorry.
That
interrupt
predates
you?
me, but
Yeah.
I believe you.
In conversation with parks and improvements at Sun Valley Park, they do install a lot of their lighting. It's more expensive, but when you have a big walking path, It's a lot easier to do that than try to run the electricity and everything. So that's one of the things I'm looking at Sun Valley is to, so I know that they have installed some in some of the parks. I couldn't tell you which ones, but anyway. Councilman Peden?
Just to elaborate on the lights, it got as far as we had already moved NDF money. I know that myself, Councilman Ward Pugh, and Councilwoman Woolridge were the three that I can come up with off the top of my head. We had actually given money to Public Works. It languished for 6 months or so. This was in the hands of Ted Pullen at the time. And ultimately, we got our money back because they essentially pulled the program because the actual equipment did not work as advertised.
Interesting.
So if someone has, in that 6 or 7 years that Councilman Owen mentioned, developed something better, there are several of us who would like to try that again because it's quite obvious that, especially in my case, the suburbs, we're not going to get streetlights unless they become self-sustaining on their own because nobody lets me pay LG&E for some reason. So...
Great. That's great. Good to know. Director Burns is here, so we can talk about that, too.
Yep.
Councilman Blackwell?
I'm sorry. I think Mohammed Nouri, when he comes up, we'll talk a little bit about what we were looking at with Dixie.
Thank you.
Addresses that issue, and also point out that that the experiment, and I'm not sure if it was the same experiment, but we did put 2 solar lights on Rose Farm Park on Dixie. It's right across from the government center on Dixie, which work, and they don't actually have solar panels. It's like it's actually the street.
Right.
It's on the pole itself, so you don't see it. It's much like you were saying. You don't really see it. You wouldn't identify it as such. But I think it worked there better because it's one of those that if you, like, it has a low-level light, and then if you walk up on it, it gets brighter. But it's not that bright all the time where maybe a street light you would want bright all the time. I think that might have been some of the issues.
Which would work well in a...
But it works great in a park,
park as far as a walking path and all.
It does.
Okay, let's see. Thank you, Ms. Koetter, for coming.
Welcome.
We appreciate your insight, and hopefully the conversation will continue. So thank you very much. We have with the Dixie Highway Corridor Project a consultant, Mohammed Nouri. If you could come forward, please. How are you doing today?
Fine.
If you could, I'm not sure if I butchered your last name or not, but if you could repeat your name.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Mohammed Nouri. That's Nouri. And first of all, thank you for inviting me and for this opportunity to be here. Second, I wanted to acknowledge my involvement with this Dixie Highway project because I think that's important. I was there from the beginning and helped out in terms of the development of the entire master plan for the entire corridor. And subsequently, the project has received state funding for implementation, and that's where we are right at the midst of that part of that project. For Dixie Highway, to give you a little bit of context, because I think that's important, and that is the primary purpose of that Dixie Highway improvement is about the safety improvements. We do lose about 2 to 3 people, pedestrians per year along the corridor, and the reasons are basically lack of visibility. People in the car, in the vehicle, do not see these people that they're crossing the street. The problem is so bad, and I believe you were part of it, that it made into the national headlines. The Federal Highway Administration at the national level, they chose the city of Louisville. Last year they came here and they conducted this pedestrian safety audit along the corridor. Again, their part of the audit, again, this is a third party, came out of Atlanta, and that their understanding and their findings were, yes, you do. There are 2 major reasons that these are causing these fatalities, these problems. One is visibility, which is really can be directed to lack of lighting along the corridor. And if you go out there, you will see that for yourself. I mean, that's just the fact is the fact. And the second was the lack of facilities. And there are some stretches of Dixie Highway, there are no sidewalks whatsoever. So as part of this whole design development that we are recommending installing a systematic system of lighting. In another word, we do have some lightings here and there and so forth, but they are not uniform. Here we are saying every 50 or 75 feet or whatever that number is, install a street light. I mean, as simple as that. And of course, that makes sense, and nobody argues with that. The argument comes, or the resistance comes, who is going to be paying for these lights? And these are good questions, because in today's tough fiscal environment, there is no money. Somebody has to pay for that, the cost of the electricity, of the lighting of that light post. So that's where this whole idea of the solar panel farms came to a fruition. There isn't enough space at the juncture of I-264 and Dixie Highway. Enough area, enough real estate that is really not being used for any purpose. It just gets cut basically 3 or 4 times a year. It's a grassy area that we can install enough panels out there that will illuminate the entire corridor of the Dixie Highway from 264 all the way to 265, the Gene Snyder Freeway. Again, these, as you will hear from the rest of the experts here, these systems are getting smarter, cleaner, cheaper, and so forth. And the payback, Maria is right, it's somewhere around 10 to 15 years that these systems pay for themselves. So the idea along the Dixie Highway was implement something at a small, much smaller scale, maybe a 20 kilowatt system. That will basically cover a small area. There are learning curves that we are going to be learning from this thing. We haven't done this thing in this part of the country. So we are saying, let's approach it cautiously, install in a small segment throughout that interchange area, and that's the most challenging part of that corridor. And this will be a system that's about 20 kilowatt system. It's about roughly somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000, and the payback period again is about somewhere between 10 to 15 years. The system will pay back for that initial cost. How it works is your street lights are conventional; they are tied to LG&E system. We are installing these standalone system of 10, 12 panels and so forth. They do generate electricity. During the day, when the lights are off, the meter is running in one direction. When the lights come on, they're directly sourcing it from the LG&E. The meter is going to be running the other direction. If there were no solar panels, the typical LG&E bill, again, this is just an example, would have been $3,800 a month. With this system in place, we are hoping that's going to be $38 a month. And that's how we are paying for the cost of lighting the streets. That offsets, that answers this whole fiscal matter in terms of the financing and who pays for the electricity on a month-to-month basis. So that's, in a nutshell, that is about the project on Dixie Highway.
So let me ask you this. Are there federal programs that encourage and subsidize these type of farms?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I do know out west, Oregon, California, and recently on a statewide basis in the state of Minnesota has really looking at the entire interstate system on a statewide basis. Again, they're looking at this thing. This is a value. This real estate, this right-of-way has a value.
Right.
And that value is in terms of the real estate, it's that's where we put these panels and so forth. Of course, you cannot put them everywhere and everywhere. Right. So they have to be designed, they have to be thought in terms of their location. There are some safety precautions, some vandalism issues and things like that. But again, those are some of the stuff that, again, it's here. We are right now at the concept level. We are trying to see how feasible that concept is, especially for Dixie Highway.
So would LG&E be I mean, obviously they would be a partner in this, but are there programs through them?
I do not know the details
yet.
of those.
Okay.
Maria and the rest of the experts here, they may know a little bit more about those. Yes.
We'll have to talk to Councilwoman Butler.
Yes.
So let's see. I thought I had Mr. Hollander or Councilman Hollander in the queue.
Yeah, I was just actually going to comment not so much on the solar farm, which sounds like a wonderful idea, but in terms of tax credits, to answer Councilman Pedon's question about tax credits for individuals, there is a 30% federal tax credit, which is set to expire. I hope it doesn't, but it's set to expire at the end of 2016. So that's a very significant straight tax credit for the cost of a solar installation on your house.
Correct. Okay. Councilman Owen?
I just wanted to make one comment and then ask a question relative to the Dixie Highway proposal. The comment is a matter of, I think our community will have to go through a process of changing perception in this sense. I know in my district I have at least one preservation district where the architectural style of the house is significantly valued and preserved, as it were. Well, there are going to be structures in all of our neighborhoods where the panels the pipes or whatever need to be on the front of the house, right? Because that's the south-facing part of the house. And I have wrestled with this in my own mind in a speculative way over the last year or two, and I have resolved that I'm perfectly comfortable with adjusting my perception, my expectations, and that a house that looks like a Cape Cod and has a south-facing front roof will be enriched architecturally by the installation of solar panels. And that, I think, takes kind of a change of mindset. The question that I get somewhere between a question and an observation on the Dixie Highway, and that is, as you're calculating cost, is there any sense in which you have to wash the panels, clean the panels, maintain the panels at that level? Does dust and muck dull them up, and then you have to somehow go in and wash them off?
Like any other system, they do require some maintenance, yes. But again, and going back to your original observation, although those systems that you just explained may be in front yard or in the individual property and so forth, whereas in Dixie Highway, this is in a public
right. I understand that.
Public space, but they do require maintenance, yes. However, again, some of these people may correct me. Hopefully, they will correct me. There are systems have been installed by former President Carter at the White House, and they're still operating to this date. Again, that doesn't mean that we install them and leave them alone, but they do need to be taken care of. In the event of a hail, one might break. But again, there are risks and rewards. That's where really the balance is. How do you balance those?
All right. I think one of those people back there, could that be Mr. Bobby Clark with the Nulu Sustainability? Thank you very much for coming and sharing your knowledge. And we're so excited about the Dixie Highway Corridor project.
Well, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm going to first disclose I am not a solar expert. There are some other solar experts in the room, and we'll defer to them, but I have been in this space of clean and renewable energy. I'm with Midwest Clean Energy Enterprise. We are working with Maria's Office of Sustainability, Gil Holland and the Nulu Business Association, and Rebecca Matheny and her team at the Downtown Development Partnership in establishing a public-private partnership to create an eco-district in the Nulu area. We're also working with Maria's office of doing something similar in the Sobro neighborhood as well. The idea here is by getting ahead of the curve and setting up a public-private partnership to do this, that we can talk about changing attitudes. And what I'm here today really to talk about is the business case. Whether it's the government and what's the return on investment, how quick it is, or whether you're a business. Businesses are in the business to make a profit. And most businesses, if they're presented with an opportunity on how they can cut their costs by 5% or 10% or 20%, they're going to jump at that opportunity. And the reality is with current energy mix, we've got coal, we've got natural gas, we've got a little bit of renewables in the mix. With that mix, what we do know is electric rates are going to continue to go up. Regulatory pressures are going to cause significant increases depending on the circumstances. Kentucky has benefited for many, many years by very low electric rates. We're the fourth lowest rate energy cost in the country. So if we were in New York or in California or the Northeast and we were paying 22, 25, or almost 30 cents per kilowatt hour, a lot of the discussions we have in the Commonwealth would be almost irrelevant because we would be jumping at every chance we got to install solar and other renewables into the mix. So one of the things that I have been advocating through the work that I've been doing is that businesses and government should be looking at ways to diversify their energy portfolio. I'm sure with your own personal finances and family finances, I know with your retirement funds here at the city and every other business, you don't put all your money in the stock market. You diversify into bonds and stocks and mutual funds to spread that risk. We need to begin looking at doing the exact same thing in Louisville and the rest of the Commonwealth, because we're not going to continue to be the fourth lowest rate. Or even if we are still the fourth lowest rates and they're double what they are today in 5 or 10 or 12 years, it's going to be very hard for us to do what we do and the work that you all do to make sure this community gets the services it needs. So anytime I hear about the Dixie Project or any of these other kinds of things where government buildings are beginning to do this, I'm excited about that, and we hope more will continue to do that. I think it's important because Louisville can be a leader in the Commonwealth and can be a driver. One of the challenges you have here, as well as in rural and especially Appalachia, is energy bills are literally killing our citizens. They have to decide whether to eat or pay their electric bill. They have to decide to pay their electric bill or go to the doctor. And so we need to continue the message of energy efficiency. And once they've got their building or their home as tight as they can get and as energy efficiency as possible, then we can start introducing renewables to that mix and further reduce that. I'm excited about the work I'm doing in West Liberty, Kentucky that was destroyed by a tornado 3 years ago now. And we're helping raise money to build 4 new net zero homes for these 4 families that were displaced by the tornado that can come back and move back in and maybe have a $10 a month or $25 a month connection fee instead of $200 or $300 a month. Our project has been accepted by the Clinton Global Initiative as a commitment to action because we want to help create a replicable model for post-disaster recovery. So it's exciting to me. I'm here. I'm actually from Lexington. I work here at least sometimes 2 days a week, not only on the New Lou project, but proud to be part of the Louisville Sustainability Committee's Green Economy Action Team. I'm working over in the food port area and doing a lot of stuff in this community, and just excited to be a part and help you accomplish what you want to do and get done for the citizens of Jefferson County.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions of anyone? And we've got about 5 minutes left, and I didn't know if there was someone in the audience that may be able to give us a little perspective. Are you sure? I know everyone keeps referring to the experts in the audience. So is there someone that could maybe give us a little overview really quickly?
I would like to just give a quick overview on what our condition is in the city in terms of street lights so that people understand.
Would you like to come to the podium, please? So.
Won't take a minute. My name is Vanessa Burns. I'm the Director of Public Works. I just want to thank Councilman Blackman and Hollander on the issue of at least raising this as an issue. I would like to say that we in Public Works in the city, every opportunity to look to see what we can do to improve our energy consumption, we're making every effort. In the last year, we actually looked at the issue of LED lighting. which if you notice, if you look up at a lot of our traffic lights were done about 5 or 6 years ago. And so we actually had entered into discussions in terms of what those various costs are. But just like talking about the street lights, one of the issues is we actually in Public Works only maintain 2,500 of them. The other 16 to 20,000 are maintained by LG&E, and that's the bill that we pay every year of $4.5 million. And so we're making every effort. I think the LED lights has come down, but it still has not come down enough. And the same thing is somewhat true on solar. I think there was a mention of solar use of the pedestrian lights. That's pedestrian was name where somebody's walking across, because it's like one light with the solar panel, small solar panel. The issue for this particular project in Dixie Highway is that the original quote-unquote master plan was a lot higher in cost than what was actually eventually approved as a federal project. And so therefore the issue of what gets done or doesn't done is based on funds. Councilman Peden, who was here, is not here anymore. He'll know that when we went to do a project in his neighborhood, our ability to be able to maintain lights other than the ones that are in various projects is limited. And so we go forward when there's a project. We are only doing the ones that the 2,500. Anything else that's outside have to be maintained by somebody else or paid for by somebody else.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes, if you would like to come forward, sir.
I just wanted to, Director Byrne, this has nothing to do with solar or lighting, but I just had some paving done in my district, and I just wanted to compliment your employees that we worked with, but especially the contractor, hall contractor, did an excellent job and very efficient, moved right through, got it done, and the people in my district are thrilled with being able to drive on those streets today.
Well, we appreciate it, and I think Beth yesterday or today sent a list of our basic schedule that we have planned. Just be aware that if we have planned for a certain time, if it rains like it did in July and everything, that everything gets pulled back. We make every attempt to do things by neighborhoods, so sometimes it's a little bit more inconvenient, but it's a better way to get more of the roads done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make sure that gets related.
Councilman Blackwell.
Yeah, just very quickly, I just had,
Yes.
In terms of the cost, a couple of things were added to that list too, but that's a whole other story.
Right.
I won't take time.
Okay.
I changed my mind. I will not take time. We'll just bring
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Dar stuff. That's great.
Yes. If you could state your name, please.
My name is Tim Darst. I'm the Director of Kentucky Interfaith Power and Light on the board of the Louisville Sustainability Council.
Welcome. So we just have probably no minutes, but I would love for you, if we could table this. Can we do that and invite him back? I mean, if you could just give us a quick overview, I think we have time for that. Don't you believe?
I'd be glad to do that or give answer any questions.
Yes. Is there any questions of Mr. Darst? No.
Okay. An overview of the resolution. Is that what you're asking for?
Well, just anything that you could give to enlighten us on what we've been discussing today.
Sure. One of the biggest things that I look at when I look at making decisions in my life isn't necessarily financial. Financial is a big part of that, but when I go decide what to eat, I look for something that's nutritious, something that's healthy, and is going to be good for me. And so when we look at our energy use, if we look at just the lowest cost, which is currently coal, because we get more than 90% of our electricity from coal, that's probably the unhealthiest thing that we can do. It's the junk food. But if we're looking at a healthy decision, then we need to move more towards renewable energies. So I installed solar on my house many years ago. I've installed it on my church. I've helped a lot of other churches install it. And And I think it's a good, healthy option for the city of Louisville. So I encourage as much solar energy as we possibly can.
Super. So, Councilman Blackwell, would you like to just
We need to vote on this?
Yeah. I
go
would
ahead
just
and
yeah,
vote on
I
it?
think so.
Okay.
Go ahead
Yeah.
and vote on it. Wrap it up.
So it's a resolution, so it's calling for a voice vote. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it, and this will go to consent calendar. And I appreciate everyone who has been here today to help us, and we are adjourned. Thank you.